Let's be clear. When a man says something that makes your heart sink, your gut twist, or your energy drop, that's not you being too emotional. That's your intuition sounding the alarm. Carl Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." The same applies to relationships. You're not unlucky in love. You've just been conditioned to ignore the signs. But today, that changes. This isn't just a list of red flags. These are verbal confessions, slipped through the cracks of charm and excuses. When a man says these things, he's revealing his inner world, and more importantly, how he plans to treat yours. If he says any of these 10 things, walk away, not slowly, not with doubt, but with fire in your spirit and clarity in your step. Let's begin. 1. You're too sensitive. Translation: your emotions are a problem for me because I don't want to look at myself. This is not a neutral observation. This is a weapon. He's telling you that your reactions, your pain, your boundaries, your feelings are not valid. He's trying to make you doubt your own perception. According to Jung, this is a classic case of projection. He's projecting his emotional immaturity onto you because he hasn't integrated his own shadow, the part of him that fears vulnerability, softness, and truth. He doesn't know how to face his own discomfort, so he shames yours. Here's the truth. You are not too sensitive. You are tuned in, awake, alive. But he wants you numb, because numb women are easier to control. Walk away. 2. My ex was crazy. Listen, maybe his ex did have issues. We all have past wounds. But if he brings it up in the first few conversations, or says it with bitterness and zero ownership, that's a serious red flag. Because here's the psychology. He's setting the stage. He's rewriting the narrative so that if you later call him out on his behavior, he can say, "You're just like her." Carl Jung taught that the people we attract reflect unhealed parts of ourselves. If every woman he dates ends up crazy, that says more about him than it does about them. This phrase is not just gossip. It's a preview of how he will speak about you once the relationship gets hard or ends. A man who honors the past can be trusted in the present. A man who blames and bashes, he's telling you who he is. Believe him and walk away. 3. I don't believe in labels. This one's sneaky. He'll say it with a smile, maybe even quote some spiritual jargon. Labels are limiting. Let's just go with the flow. Why do we need to define it? But don't be fooled. Jung would call this persona manipulation, where a man hides behind ideals to avoid vulnerability. And while it sounds enlightened, the truth is simple. He doesn't want to commit. He wants access to your body, your energy, your care, but not the label that holds him accountable. Because once there's a label, there's expectation, and expectation requires maturity. The one thing he's avoiding. You deserve clarity. You deserve someone who says, "Yes, I want you, fully, openly, proudly." Don't let him trap you in relationship purgatory because he's too emotionally stunted to say what he really means. If he won't label it, it's not love. Walk away. 4. You're just being dramatic. Let's be blunt. This one is pure gaslighting. It's a tactic designed to make you feel like your emotional responses are exaggerated, irrational, or childish. But here's the psychological reality. Your emotions are data, signals, information. When a man tells you you're being dramatic, he's not actually concerned about your reaction. He's trying to invalidate it so he doesn't have to change. Carl Jung spoke of the anima, the feminine energy within every man. When a man hasn't integrated his anima, when he's disconnected from empathy, intuition, and emotional intelligence, he will attack those qualities in others, especially women. Instead of sitting with your pain, he dismisses it. Instead of listening, he labels. And that's not just emotional immaturity, that's emotional sabotage. A man who respects your feelings listens with curiosity. A man who calls them drama is trying to shut you down. If he can't handle your truth, he doesn't deserve your softness. Walk away. 5. You're lucky I'm even with you. This phrase is abuse. Flat out. Don't dress it up. Don't justify it. This is verbal degradation masked as confidence. When a man says this, he's telling you, you're not enough. I'm settling by being with you. You should be grateful I tolerate you. It's cruel. And worse, it's strategic. Because the more you hear it, the more you start to believe it. Slowly, your self-worth gets chipped away. You stop questioning his behavior because you start to question your value. But here's what Jung would say. This is classic shadow projection. The man who says this phrase is haunted by his own unworthiness. And instead of facing it, he tries to project that feeling onto you. He wants you to shrink so he can feel bigger. But real love doesn't require shrinking. It requires expansion. You don't need to feel lucky to be tolerated. You need to be cherished for who you are. The moment this phrase leaves his mouth, the relationship stops being romantic and starts being toxic. Walk away. 6. Why can't you just let it go? On the surface, this sounds like a request for peace, but what it really is an escape hatch. He's trying to dodge consequences, to avoid depth, to skip the repair and silence the damage. Here's the deeper danger. This phrase rewrites reality. It makes you feel guilty for needing closure. It frames your emotional needs as excess baggage. And Carl Jung would call this an attempt to bypass individuation, the process of becoming whole through integrating pain, not avoiding it. When he says, just let it go, what he's really saying is, I don't want to be uncomfortable. I want you to do the emotional work I refuse to do. Let me off the hook so I can hurt you again. Healing doesn't come from ignoring. It comes from understanding, from accountability, from emotional maturity. A real man says, let's talk about it. A manipulator says, just drop it. And if you do drop it, you'll drop yourself in the process. Walk away. 7. You're overthinking it. This phrase may sound innocent, even caring. But don't be fooled. It's not about you overthinking. It's about him not wanting you to think at all. Carl Jung taught that the unconscious mind speaks through symbols, instincts, and patterns. When your intuition begins connecting dots, noticing red flags, inconsistencies, or manipulation, a man who lacks integrity will want to shut it down fast. And what's the easiest way to do that? Make you doubt your thoughts. Make you feel like your inner voice is paranoid or crazy. This is gaslighting in disguise. He doesn't want you to stop overthinking. He wants you to stop thinking critically, because your clarity threatens his game. So next time you hear that phrase, pause and ask yourself, what am I actually noticing right now? What truth am I being told to ignore? If he respected your mind, he'd ask what you're feeling, not dismiss your insight. You're not overthinking. You're finally seeing clearly. Walk away. 8. You'll never find someone like me. This is not confidence. This is emotional blackmail, a scare tactic, a final power play by a man who knows he's losing control and wants to keep you frozen with fear. At its core, this phrase is about ego inflation, something Jung explored in depth. When a man is disconnected from his true self, he builds a fragile ego, one that constantly needs validation, dominance, and praise. So what does he do? He convinces you that he's the prize. even while he disrespects you. He wants you to think that walking away from him means you're walking away from the best you'll ever get. But let's be real. If he were that valuable, he wouldn't need to say this at all. You don't need someone like him. You need someone unlike everything he's made you feel. This isn't about scarcity. It's about sovereignty. The moment you realize you're the one with the real power, he loses his grip. Walk away. 9. I'm just being honest, used as a weapon. Honesty without empathy isn't strength. It's violence in a nice shirt. When a man says something unkind, cold, or cutting, and then hides behind, I'm just being honest, he's not practicing truth. He's practicing emotional dominance. Jung would call this the tyranny of the shadow. Instead of integrating his darker traits, like cruelty, contempt, or superiority, he rationalizes them. He polishes them up with justification and throws them at you under the guise of truth. It's not truth. It's a control tactic. You don't have to tolerate honesty that cuts you down, makes you question your worth, or strips your confidence. Truth is supposed to liberate, not humiliate. And if his version of truth always makes you feel smaller, that's not truth. That's abuse, dressed as integrity. Walk away. 10. You're not like other girls. At first, this one feels like a compliment. He's admiring your uniqueness, praising you, making you feel chosen. But don't miss what's actually happening here. He's setting up a false hierarchy, placing you above other women, not because of who you are, but because of what he expects you to be. And the moment you don't meet that impossible standard, he'll knock you down, shame you, or accuse you of being just like the rest. Carl Jung would say this is projected idealization, not love. It's not a connection. It's a fantasy. And fantasies are fragile. When reality enters, the mask drops. Here's the secret. A man who truly sees your worth never needs to compare you. He values your humanity, not your performance. You're not better than other girls. You're yourself. And that's more than enough. If he builds you up just to control how you fall, walk away. These phrases may seem small, even casual, but they're not. They're psychological grenades, thrown subtly, meant to confuse, destabilize, and rewire your self-worth. Carl Jung warned that the unconscious runs the show until we name it. Now you've named it, so the next time you hear these words, don't explain them away, don't rationalize, don't hope he'll change. Walk away and walk back to yourself. Because the most powerful thing a woman can do isn't beg to be loved. It's to love herself enough to say, this ends here.